All right, welcome out. Another list in our list of lists, continuing the list, but we're getting towards the end. We're moving past the college experience to graduation. We're talking about getting that job. Now that you've graduated, find that job, right? So we've done this in three phases. The phases 1 and 3 are relatively brief. You're talking the precursor, the work that you have to do for phase 1 in order to get prepared for college, all the setup stuff that you need to do, which very few people do, which will put you way ahead of the game and ensure, well, I don't know about ensure, but to a considerable degree, ensure that you probably waste a lot less time and money than most people who just go off to college because they said, I'm going off to college. So why are you going off to college? Well, I was told to, or I believe that's what I should be doing because everybody else, my friends are all going. The president's talking about going to college and get a college degree. My parents talk about it. All society is just talking about it. So therefore, I just got to do. I'm just going to listen to what people say and not research or think about anything on my own. Do any independent research, which is a failed way to do things in life in general. Because throughout history, if you know anything about history, and you probably should know some things about history, because history does repeat itself. Professor, why do we learn history? Is it because history, so we don't repeat history? I get those questions. Well, yeah, history does repeat itself frequently. And I think that's because very few people really pay attention to history and its significance therein. All right, so this is it, the big payoff. Why I've been doing all this work, but to be honest, this is probably the most challenging step of getting that career off the ground. Sure, taking the right classes, learning what you need to know, and graduating is a lot of hard work. But finding a place of employment where you fit in and can thrive is a very challenging task, okay? Don't look at this as just getting a job. I just need to get a job. I'm an accountant, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer. Well, maybe those positions, if you're talking high-end technical positions, doctor, lawyer, engineer, there's most likely a lot more preparation work going on there than that of your average graduate. Okay. So, but bottom line, you've again, and this is just continuing from the mindset and the thoroughness of your pre-college years, right through college and post-college years, and hopefully into the workplace, into the public arena, into your private life, into the community, into your family. Okay. So you want to keep this type of thinking going and going and going. It's a very lucrative thinking. It's a very systemic thinking. It's a very applicable thinking from the simplest decisions, issues, and concerns to the most complex. Using good, rational, critical thinking, analyzing, being logical, coherent, comprehensive, and so forth and so on, right? Good thinker. We don't have a lot of good thinkers. And then again, we might have good thinkers, but those thinkers are oftentimes dissuaded from the truth. And they are more interested in money and power and influence than in acting and thinking, I guess, to begin with, thinking and then acting correctly, right? All right, number one, consider what type of people you want to work with and the environment you want to work in. Very important, all right? Most grads don't think beyond just getting a job, some job somewhere, anywhere. The particulars really don't matter. Nothing could be further from the truth. You want to make sure that you're employed for a good number of years, say 3 to 5, to ensure stability and growth. You don't want to be moving around every year or so. That will not look good on the old resume. So think about the type of people you'd like to work with, the work environment, even the work you'd be doing. For example, if you may want to be a computer programmer or an accountant, but do what you want to work at a large corporation, but do you want to work at a large corporation or more smaller, laid back environment? Do you like working with logical, rational thinkers or more open-ended, abstract thinkers, creative thinkers? There's a lot to consider, and if you end up in the wrong place and move on within 6 months to a year, and then to the next and the next because you haven't thought this stuff through and you're just kind of going by knee-jerk reflex, right? You haven't been planning out your approach properly. It could damage your career considerably, set you back, or be like most people who are out in the workforce for some time, and by the time they get to their late 20s, early 30s, going, wait a minute, it's not turning out like I imagined it should. I'm not, first and foremost, probably, not making money or good money. I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm not being fulfilled. I don't like the people I'm working with, the environment I'm working in, the place I'm working at, and so forth and so on. And nowadays, there's a caveat here. There's a bit of a warning. You might hear people say these days that certain degrees, a college degree is totally useless. Certain college degrees are useless. Whenever you hear somebody use absolutes in that sense, you have to be a good critical thinker again. You have to be a bit leery, a bit weary of what they're really trying to say. And, like we do things in the extreme, usually just for effect. If you live back east, there's something that falls from the sky on a regular basis. People out west don't see it much, and it's called precipitation, rain, right? Ice, snow, sleet, rain, all that good stuff. And especially in the summertime, it's annoying because I live back east. I'm living out west now. In the summertime, it was a bit annoying because of the fact that you might wash your car, and then within a day or two, it rains. And you say, well, didn't you look at the forecast? Well, forecasts are not always accurate. So, it rains. And then people will say, oftentimes, for effect, without thinking, and that's what people do. I don't want to say all the time, very frequently, way too often. Every time I wash my car, it rains. That's not true. You probably, out of the 10 times you wash your car, the 2 times it rains, 2 or 3 times, which is only 30% 30%. It's not all the time, barely, it's not even over 50%. But nevertheless, you want to emphasize your frustration all the time, everybody, everywhere, that type of garbage. And I've heard the same type of emotional overexpression, those kind of statements made in the political arena, academic arena, business arena, and so forth and so on. So you really want to, you always want to qualify, quantify, specify, be a little more rational, be a little more logical, be a little more honest and down to earth and stable. It's very unstable thinking if you're always, shooting from the hip, all emotional and overemphasizing and exaggerating. It's not very mature. It's not very professional. It's not very helpful, and it's not very useful. Okay. So avoid that type of thinking. Just my advice. And I was mentioning, going back to the job, finding work, the degrees, useless, totally useless. All degrees have a certain amount of use. Better to have a degree in actuality. Most times, I don't want to say all the time, but oftentimes, most frequently, it's better to have a degree than not. Why? Well, because you're indicating to the employer a couple of things. You're serious. You're a serious, dedicated person. You can follow through. That's a huge accomplishment. 4 years of college, as long as as long as you don't have the lowest grades ever. But if you graduated with a decent cum or grade point average, B minus or higher, roughly, that's a good amount of work. So you've shown your potential employer that you're work worthy, that you're serious, that you're dedicated, that you want to get somewhere, do something in life, that you could probably think better than most people, and you probably learn some things. Learn some things or learn more than most people know who never went to college, right? And that's kind of a across the board statement. It's not always true. It depends on the individual. It depends on the degree. It depends on what you're learning or not learning, or the emphasis, and so forth and so on. But anyways, but generally speaking, it's better to have a 4-year degree than not. Okay, you're going to have a leg up on most of the competition out there, even though, again, a degree these days probably not as valuable as it used to be. Also the cost. It's cost is way up there. We're talking, the increase is like the cost of college has gone up 50% or something like that, even more maybe in the last 10 years. So expensive. And how useful is it? I don't know. It depends on what degree you get. Depends on what you want to do with that degree, right? So many questions. So many qualifiers. Two, each field, each subsector or subsection of those fields, each job is unique. When you're applying for a position, best to study the field that you're attempting to get a job in so that you know how to write your resume and cover letter. What courses, experience, skills, and so forth are need to be emphasized. What needs to be on that resume? What are your potential employers looking for on that resume? Also, keep in mind that those hiring have pet peeves, skill, knowledge, and attitudes that are desired by an individual manager, or maybe an individual work sector, or maybe an individual company or companies within a particular niche or niche. There's a lot to consider. Yeah. It's not as cut and dry or as simple as many people put it forth to be. People love to make it simple. That way they don't have to think. They don't have to worry, right? But reality dictates that you better think and you better, I don't know about worry, but do the work, right? Best thing to do is research the field and the specific place of work where you'll be interviewing. Sometimes you can find a friendly person in human resources, or maybe the receptionist who's been at the company 20 years. You probably want somebody who's been there, if you can find them sometime. And that's a little, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be careful with that because, you don't know the person you're talking to. You don't know, they might help you and then turn around and say something to oppose you. I'm not saying backstabbing. You don't even work there. But you never know how people will respond. So you got to be a little careful. You know, do your research, do your due diligence. You can talk to people in the field. Maybe maybe you have a friend, family member, somebody in academia who has worked at a particular place of work, a particular business within a particular field. Do your homework, do some background checking, right? Polish that resume and cover letter with some help. You can go over your resume and cover letter as much as you like, and that's fine. Unfortunately, you need another perspective. What happens is that you may see the writing clearly in your mind, in your head, but not recognize that you got it wrong on the paper. This is a common problem with writing. Trying to transfer from your mind, down through your arm into your fingertips onto the keyboard, or maybe a pencil. I guess keyboard these days, right? Onto the paper. For some reason, because of the fact that we aren't communicating fluidly, as I'm speaking, it's very fluid, thought in, thought out, relatively rapidly, right? When you slow the process, communication breaks down, especially if you're not used to the slower process of thinking it through, writing it down, organizing your thoughts, editing, going back and forth. So you need to have somebody else read what you've written. Should it be a professional in the field? Should it be a professional in general? I don't know if that's necessary, as long as the person is, relatively intelligent and relatively perceptive, I guess, right? You can employ family or friends, or better yet, take it to the college's career service department. You kind of have to feel it out. My dad was a mechanical engineer at Pratt Whitney, so he was very, Ivy League educated. So I would oftentimes bring it's bringing your writing to a professional, right? So if your father, your parents, one of your parents, or your parents are professionals, or maybe brother, sister, friend, cousin, uncle, aunt, whatever, have them look at it. Keep in mind that if you're applying to a larger company, they often use headhunters who utilize resume scanners or applicant tracking systems, ATS scanners, looking for keywords, format, and overall ATS compatibility. Another reason to go over that resume in detail to make sure that what needs to be on there is on there, right? And the reason why they use those ATS scanners is, especially if you've If it's a large company, if it's a company of 500 or more employees, or maybe thousands of employees, and you've got a position open and you're getting hundreds of applicants, nobody has the time to read through all those resumes. So they kind of do it in tiers or in levels. The first thing they'll do is just scan with these scanners, scan the resume to see that there's keywords and formatting and keywords and phrases and terminology that they're looking for that will possibly qualify the candidate for the position that's open. And then I don't know if they do a second scan, another preliminary scan, and then they break it down to maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 or so, depending on the number of people applying, depending on the number of job openings. Sometimes it's not just one job, but maybe they're looking for 10 engineers or something like that, right? So they're going to break it down to bring in and actually speak to, and maybe even interview rigorously, maybe 20. We've got 9 openings, we'll bring in 20 and we'll select from there, right? So understanding how the whole process works is very advantageous to the job seeker, the potential employee, sorry. 4, make as many aware of your job search as possible. That means alerting family, friends, and associates and others to the fact that you are looking for work. You should also have your 1-minute elevator speech ready to go at any moment. What is that, right? It's basically just a quick overview of who you are, qualifications, what you're looking for, right? I am Joe Johnson. I graduated from Prime University with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering with a 3.89 GPA. For 4 years I was there. I worked in the field doing this, that, and such and other. My course emphasis is blah, blah, blah. My father is also an engineer in the field. Our family has been in this field, whatever it is, fill in the blank, for 15 years, right? I'm interested if you have any openings, right? That's about the right length. Maybe 1 minute long. That's all you got time for. You never know who you're going to run into at any time as you're out there, out and about. You don't want to be caught short-handed or not ready, right? Getting that first job is often the most challenging. That should be pretty obvious to most. So you like a job, but you don't have any experience for a company that's looking for someone with experience. Well, this is where your connections come into play. Getting helps from those who know. Yes, helps can be plural. Getting helps from those, actually the editor for this software gave me that. The plural helps. Getting helps from those, family, friends, academics in the field who can be an advocate will really help you, give you that push you need to get started again. This is why it's good to get a job, any job at a company within your field early on, right? Freshman year, possibly, so that you can hobnob with those in the field. Hobnob is just kind of socialize and talk and pick brains, for information. Hobnob with those in the field to get to know the lay of the land. But if you didn't take that advice, get with those connections, and also join groups and organizations associated with the field. Don't know where they are? Try the internet or those at the college department of your major. Good luck, right? So, I'm giving suggestions. I don't give all the suggestions or all the information or all the angles that you could possibly think of or need. I'm just trying to prime thought. I'm trying to get you to start thinking about these things. Open up your mind, let your mind flower, and open up your mind to the possibilities of what's out there, right? What you need to know, what you need to do, what you need to get, where you need to be, what you need to acquire. The interview. Another suggestion that I gave some time ago was to go to practice interviews, or those that you may not expect to get a job through. You might be able to do this your senior year, even before you graduate. I did. I even got a job before I graduated with my degree because I showed initiative. I hadn't yet gotten my master's, and I picked up a couple classes at a college uh, many months before I graduated. You know, because sometimes when, do you have it? The applications will ask you, do you have a degree? Do you have a qualifying degree? Meaning, do you have other things that could possibly qualify you uh, for the degree that you're getting, right? Maybe some work experience or some background. I think the reason why I got the couple of, well, as an adjunct, your contract, it's not a big risk anyways. So I didn't get hired for a full-time job. But adjunct, man, I was happy. I didn't care. Give me the job. Give me some classes, right? You're contracted semester by semester, so it wasn't going to, in the long run, really harm them much if I didn't work out. They'd let me go the next semester, and I ended up staying there about 25 years. So I think it worked out pretty well. But anyways, so I think the reason why I got the position, first of all, because of the initiative. And also I did my homework and my research, and I was really prepared. I was on top of things. I had really researched the environment I'd be working in, the college I'd be working at, and so forth and so on. So I did my due diligence. Plus, I also had, what was it? Like a year and a half of teaching experience, actual hands-on teaching. It was, substitute teaching K through 12, but nevertheless, teaching classroom. I was in the classroom. So, you got to think things through. You got to do your due diligence. You got to do your extra legwork. You got to get out there and work the process, work it, maybe. But don't worry if you get the interview, but not the job. It's great practice. Go over as many questions that they may ask as possible. Practice with questions. There's interview questions, general interview questions, and then job related or discipline related questions. If you're going to be an engineer, there are engineer questions. And then there are, general job or work questions, employment questions. So practice with a bunch of those. You can even record it, have a friend ask you the questions and you answer. It's great practice for the real thing. Another point is that the more you practice, the less nervous you'll be for the real thing. Good luck, right? There was a job that I applied for. And this was after I've been working for some time, maybe 10, 15 years or so. And I forget, it was up on the West Coast. It was up the coast from LA. And I forget why I applied. I think I was serious about it at one point for some reason. And then that kind of fell through. And I said, well, you know what? I'm just going to go anyways. I'm going to go up there, talk to people, see the lay of the land, talk to the people at the college, see what kind of environment is there, see the campus, talk to those in the department, and so forth, kind of do my own little recognizant work. Because I said, well, I might not even get the job, but maybe in the future I'm looking for a job, and I've already interviewed there, and I really did my research and due diligence and found out, well, this would be actually, if I really did need the job or want the job, great place to interview, right? So anyways, I went up there, not really too concerned about whether or not I was made an offer and I was not made an offer, because I think I got there late in the process. Because if they got 20 people they want to look at and you're number 19, yeah, by the time they get to you, unless you're exceptional, extraordinary, amazing, something that they really wanted, they're probably going to go with a candidate much earlier in the process where they were already made up their mind. So I went up there and I remember talking to the secretary. And then as I was walking, she took me down to the meeting. And usually you stand before, it's like a tribunal, If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's like a tribunal. There was probably one, two, three, four. You see, it's like a little horseshoe of desks. And you've got the chair that you sit in. And sometimes they make you get up, go to the board and teach a mock class or a section of a class, part of a class. And I think there was like six people. Probably you've got, I don't know if the dean and the chair most likely there. I don't know if the dean was there, but probably other people, maybe in administration. I met the people that's so long ago, I can't remember. Definitely faculty, maybe adjunct and full-time faculty in the department. And I went through the interview, and I wasn't nervous, and I was very much myself. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe they wanted a certain type of person or personality. But anyways, I remember the secretary said to me, "You don't seem to be nervous at all. Everybody who goes into these interviews that I take up always seem to be nervous." And I said, "What's to be nervous about? I am what I am. I have experience. I have a good resume. I'm a good teacher, and I've prepared pretty well for the interview. So I'm an honest guy. I don't have to make up anything or lie or manipulate or manage people in any way, shape, or form. So my conscience was clear. I was pretty positive, and it went well. And that's how most situations that I go into, really, after a while, you practice, right? After a while, almost any situation, after much practice, almost any situation that was relatively new that I went into, very little nervousness or doubt or fear, because I was so used to going into new situations, a diverse range of situations. I used to do stand-up comedy. I've done speaking and public speaking in the community, public speaking through my church, lecturing, all kinds of, performing as a musician. So, I've been through it enough. After a while, if you've got enough experience and you've practiced enough and you've been exposed enough to situations, new situations specifically, what's to be nervous about? You've seen it all, right? You're not a greenhorn. You're not wet behind the ears, right? Finally, number 7, during the interview process, keep track of your energy. Speaking of what I was just talking about, you'll probably go through ups and downs as you drive to the interview, walk to the building, sit and wait, get up and walk to the interview itself, right? As you're going through those stages or movements from your car to the interview, from the probably human resources, one office or person to another, and then to the interview itself. There's, the flow of energy is going to be up and down. So you've got to try to keep it on the up and up. If you feel yourself losing energy, pump yourself up. I can do this. It's going to be fine. Hell, I've done all the prep work. I'm a good person, kind of like what I was saying for number 6. And I'm an even better candidate for the position I'm interviewing for. Of course, don't lie to yourself. Don't fluff yourself up. Full of ego, if just to bolster yourself. You want to be honest about it. Don't lie to yourself. That won't help, but do keep your thoughts positive on the up and up. Also, remember to be yourself in the interview. As I said, don't be what you think they want you to be, some kind of ideal candidate or potential employer, potential employee. Sorry. That will come through too. Take a deep breath, think positive thoughts, and let it rip. Good luck. All right, so we're almost done. I think I may have a few more lists to go, the postgraduate lists. So for now, that's it. Talk to you soon. Take care.